I think people are still kind of filing in, but we can kind of just go over sort of the ground rules for the new platform, John, before I hand it over to you, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us over here on 8x8. Bear with us. This is our second go through on this platform. The first one was really successful, so we think it's a great option moving forward for meetings like this. It allows us to record our conversation, so we'll be sharing that afterwards. It also provides transcription services, so we could share a text version with people who are in need of that, and it allows for closed captioning as well in the bottom left-hand corner. Hopefully a great platform moving forward, and I hope it works out. What I encourage everybody to do is to remain on mute. I have the ability to mute all, but you can unmute yourself to speak. Out of respect for the process, what I'll ask is that, once I'll throw it over to John. John can go through some overviews on our topic for discussion today, and then it's kind of an open floor. Might make sense to try out the hand raising function in the bottom left as well if you'd like to speak. Not that we can't have multiple people speaking at once, just so we don't have people talking over each other. I think this might be a more uniform way to join the conversation if you have any questions, comments, etc. And then there's also a chat function as well. So if you're unable to talk or don't feel comfortable talking, feel free to engage through the chat, and we'll do our best to get to any questions or comments in there as well. So with that said, I'll hand it over to John. Today, topic for discussion is rewards and emissions. And over to you, sir.
Cool. Thanks, Will. I think the way I'd like to structure it, like kind of similar to last time, I think it went pretty well. I'll just give kind of a general overview, I guess, of what's going on with rewards and emissions right now. Some of the things we have coming up, and then hopefully leave it open to just like open discussion. I think we prefer Will, I guess when we're getting to that point, if I don't think we need to necessarily use the hand raise thing, so we'll see how it goes. Kind of keeping it to not talking over each other, try to get everything in, and try to proceed in a somewhat orderly fashion. But really, we just wanted to be open. And then, rewards is something that we've been working on for a long time. There are a lot of bips around it earlier in the year, and we're putting a lot of effort into it now to get everything out the door. So, and it's obviously a very important piece of how the platform works. So excited to get some feedback from the community and just have some discussions about it and see, let everyone know if they have any questions, what's going on. So I guess I'll kick it off. So rewards and emissions, what do we even mean when we're talking about that? The way I think about it is really just any badger and dig, really any assets from the treasury that we're giving out to users in any way. So the most badger that we put out so far has been part of what I would put under the emissions category, which is we're just emitting the badger and we're emitting the dig and we're emitting the badger and the dig to get it into the hands of people. And that was kind of like, okay, Badger DAO launched. How do you seed the DAO? How do you get people that are interested that are going to then use the token to vote? You just give out your token to people that are using the platform. What does using the platform mean? Really means, staking Bitcoin and other assets to then into the vaults to earn some yield. You do that, you get some of the badger that we're emitting as far as that initial distribution of the token. Then that's one angle. And then the other angle is we have new products that are launching that we think are going to be useful to users. And we want to incentivize people to use those products. That's why I would kind of classify as rewards, as saying, okay, well, we're going to give this specific product some rewards over a period of time, and hopefully that inspires people to use it. Hopefully they like the product and then continue to use it, and then we continue to get revenue and everything, flowing down the line. So quick high level, technically, how our rewards and emissions work is that it's all kind of managed off chain. And then we weekly load up. Right now, and this kind of gets us into, I guess it changes. So right now, everything's using what's called geysers. They're really just staking contracts. So that's why you have to use when you're depositing your assets into a vault, you deposit, you get the vault token, and then you take that vault token and you stake it. So for all rewards and emissions, which are the things that you have to go and claim right now, those are using these staking contracts called geysers. They're just like the standard ones that are used across the industry at a bunch of different protocols and projects. So we do also have rewards and emissions that are actually fully reinvested into the vault. So one is like staking rewards, and the other one's reinvestment rewards. So right now, BDIG is DIG is the clearest example, or all DIG that are being distributed to the DIG vault to DIG stakers are getting 100% reinvested. So your BDIG just gradually becomes worth more DIG over time. So those are the two ways that we have to kind of get rewards and emissions into the hands of users. One is, okay, you have something that you need to go claim. The other one is we just fully, we reinvest into the vaults. So that's kind of how things are now. We have the emissions of getting the general tokens out. We extended that a couple weeks ago. Sorry, hard to keep track of times. Probably like a month ago that I guess we put out the new kind of 22-week emission schedule. I don't have all of the exact numbers in front of me as far as how many weeks we have left and things like that. But it's tapering off over time, and I'm sure it'll be a discussion point as we approach the end of how we want to continue that. But yeah, right now we're still emitting the Badger. That is part of the initial token distribution, which was the initial allocation for that, and then also some of the unclaimed rewards are being used for that as well. It's still in the range for the DIG emission. The DIG emission, initial DIG emissions are happening now as well. As far as current state, we are kind of balancing. We are actively managing how which vaults are getting which percentage of assets based on some earlier BIPs, just with a general strategy of trying to not overpay. And we want to remain very liquid, but we don't want to overpay for liquidity. So we're kind of constantly monitoring that and making sure that, okay, we're keeping a reasonable level of liquidity across the different LP pairs, that we are managing emissions so that we can continue to keep that liquidity, and that's something we'll kind of manage going on down the line. So there's a lot of different topics, I guess, that we can touch on here. I guess I'll list them out real quick, and then maybe I'll just open it up to whoever wants to jump in and say, if you have a specific question about any of the different areas, or if anyone wants to call out a specific area to hit. So we have kind of the just general emissions structure, and then we have some of the BIPs that are coming up that we're currently working on. So we have peg-based rewards, which means that we'll be distributing DIG to vaults differently based on where DIG is relative to Bitcoin, so where it is relative to the peg. Price-wise, we have the Badger Boost coming up, which is going to be the multiplier replacement. We have geyser removal, so in that you will no longer have to stake anymore. And then we have, I think there was the last one I'm missing. Check my notes. Badger Boost, peg-based rewards, geyser removal. Oh, and then we'll start emitting, instead of Badger and DIG, specifically pre-staked Badger and DIG, so B Badger and B DIG. So yeah, I'll open up the floor. Anyone have any questions about any of those areas that they want to touch on and kick it off?
Hey, it's Whipper. I got here late, so I'm not sure if you discussed this or not, but I was just curious what the Badger's approach to having a stronger peg towards Bitcoin with regards to DIG. I know there was some talk about using WTC as as a way to buy back DIG to sort of put some buying pressure, but I'm not sure if you covered that or if you've touched it or you're planning on it. But I did come late, so I'm not sure. But that's my question.
Got it. Yeah, this call's focused on rewards, so I haven't touched it. wasn't necessarily planning to, but I can't answer it. Yeah, there should be more information. There'll be a post on that. Probably, I want to say early next week. We're finalizing the code and reviewing it with Stabilize for how exactly that'll work. But the high level, I can there are variables in play that allow us to tweak it as it goes. But basically, as there are positive rebases, we will as long as there's positive rebases, we'll be kind of stocking away, selling DIG for Bitcoin, and it'll only be positive rebases while the price is going down. So basically, while the price of DIG is actually going down, while it is still above the price of Bitcoin, it'll start on positive rebases selling for WBTC. And then when it is below the peg, whenever the price is rising and it is below the peg, it will start deploying the WBTC to buy DIG. Some variables in play there. So that is a write-up that is in progress that'll us or the Stabilized team will put out.
Do we have to wait for DIG to actually get back up to the peg for that to sort of kick in, or will it start, I guess, in a week and a half when that post is available to the public?
Yeah, part of that is, and part of what we're sorting out is the how we launch it, right? So it's fine if we're above the peg and they can start stocking away WBTC to then be deployed below the peg. But if we're already below the peg, obviously we need some WBTC to seed it with to start. So that is part of the discussion.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so Lavmork asked in the chat, what are the release dates for the new updates, for the updates? So right now, the order of operations that we're looking at for releasing the emissions updates, it will initially be the geyser removal. So what that's going to mean is we are going to remove all of the staking. So no more staking. You'll just have everything will just be like DIG is now, where you hold BDIG, or and everything is reinvested. The thing that's going to change, though, is we are going to move to a if anyone here is familiar with Balancer, the way that you don't have to stake your LP tokens to actually earn Balancer. You just hold them in your wallet, and all eligible LP tokens then earn rewards. And you basically just go to a site and you click claim, and you can claim them whenever you want. We're going to kind of go that route where it's all going to be done off chain now, so that what we will have is a whitelisted set of tokens and locations that will count towards Badger staking, and then we'll still be emitting rewards, and you'll still be claiming them just like you do now. But you won't have to actually go stake. So you can, we'll be working on a process so that the community can put forward proposals to add locations. So like a new protocol starts making, made Badger a collateral. So, okay, let's whitelist that address, that smart contract to say, okay, if you are now holding Badger as collateral here, that counts as staking. So it's a little more manual on the team side, but it makes the assets themselves just way more useful, because you can take your staked B Badger and then you can go use it as a mint clause or as collateral or whatever. That'll still count as staking and count towards your Badger boost. So yeah, sorry. To get back to the answer, geyser removal will be first. Then we will institute the peg-based rewards, and then Badger boost, and then the BDIG and BBadger rewards. And I would expect I think the geyser removal is supposed to be ready sometime next week. And then I would hope that we can do maybe like one a week for those after that. So maybe the 4 weeks starting next week, we'll be knocking those out. Cool. Another question here from Rob. What can we expect as APYs? What can we expect as far as APYs once emissions are complete? APYs obviously are fully dependent on the amount of assets in the pools, so hard to say exactly what APYs were, but I think probably speak to what our emissions will start to look like. Is one of the other things that's high on our list is figuring out buybacks. So I think what will probably happen is a proposal to the community. And honestly, yeah, if we're running up in May, we should probably start getting that out now, so early April at least, to start the discussion around, do we want to continue using assets from the Treasury for emissions in perpetuity, and then what amount of our revenues do we want to start using for buybacks for Badger to start using as rewards? So two things. Okay, how much revenue do we have coming in? It would probably be smoothed out pretty well, so that we're only, we're not using up all of our revenue every month, but like, some percentage of accrued revenue over X months, using it to buy Badger and then distributing that Badger back to all the vaults that we want to incentivize. So I don't know exactly what that will look like compared to what the final couple of weeks of the emissions plans look like. I think our ideal would just be to start some of the buyback before the actual buybacks and redistributes, before we run out of the current emission plan. So hard to say. The other thing that's happening is there's going to be a lot more places very soon to get yield on your Badger and Dig, namely the different chains that we're looking at deploying vaults on, for the B Badger and B Dig paired with WBTC. So there's going to be decent yield over there, which will attract some assets to move over there from Badger. So I think that'll make all the assets that stay on layer one on Ethereum have higher yield as well. So I think that paired with some of the more utility that we're bringing, with it being available as collateral types at more places, so you can just stake your B Badger and then take out a stable coin loan or something like that and go farm with that. There's more opportunities to get yield there. So yeah, can't say any APYs, but probably less. All right. So
Rob had a follow-up there.
Yep. So buying Badger back. Yes. Yeah. So Rob, yeah, exactly. Our plan is there's two things, like how much of the Treasury are we going to use to buy Badger, and then how much of that Badger are we going to use for emissions. So our plan is to have emissions in perpetuity, and then will the cross-chain strategies be optimized? I'm not sure what you mean by optimated, Rob, but yeah, those we'll be getting fees from those optimized. What do you mean by optimized? Yeah. Either way, I mean, we're going to be getting fees from those vaults as well. Yeah. So that are the cross-chain vaults by default are just going to be very basic. So for Binance, for example, we're going to be earning cake, and we're going to be selling that cake for the underlying pair. So if it's a B Badger and WBTC LP position, we'll be selling 100% of the cake for B Badger and WBTC and reinvesting it. And then with Binance, we just There's just a BIP for approving some level of some Badger to use for their kind of syrup program, which distributes them. So there's kind of some partnership there. But our default on all these chains is to start with just 100% farm, basically farm, sell it and reinvest. Most of these chains don't have staking set up like Sushi does. So Sushi has the, staking for X Sushi. That's why we're able to do that strategy there. But like, Pancake and Quick Swap and Pangolin, these other Uniswap Force and different chains don't have that. So the new missions. So yeah, Henry's, and I'm seeing all the questions here. Obviously, any questions you have, I guess throwing it in the chat seems to be working pretty well. Because we're going more AMA style, but we can definitely light up audio if anyone wants to chat as well.
I think we need to just backtrack to Rex up there and then back down to Henry and so on.
Yeah, well, I'm skipping non-emission ones for now, and I'm happy to touch on them later, but just want to kind of keep it on topic for the first bit.
Cool.
Henry asks, are these new emission programs for both B Badger and B Dig? Yes, it'll be 100%. This is full. Everything we're looking at is full system level, all assets, all vaults, and just kind of figuring out systemic way that we'll be managing everything. But yeah, both very soon, both B Badger and B Dig will be 100% reinvest, no staking, and then kind of we'll be using the whitelist to determine. The whitelist helps determine if there are any assets that are going to be that are non-native to that vault distributed, how they are distributed.
Question: Once the geyser removal aspect is removed from the platform, is there anything required from current stakers right now? Like, will we have to unstake, or like, how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, my ideal is that we would leave the staking contracts as a valid place to have your assets to earn. And then that means that you can just unstake at your leisure. So you won't have to stake to earn the rewards. But if you happen to be there just because you haven't gotten around to unstaking, you're fine. You're just as good.
But we will eventually have to unstake, basically, to go to that balancer style type of emissions of rewards and stuff, correct?
I mean, you won't have to, but eventually I think we'll want to remove it from the UI and things like that. So it would be beneficial to eventually, and your assets are now more mobile, so you can go take them and do things at different places. So I would assume you would want to unstake.
Oh, for sure. It makes a lot of sense. I think this is a great move. Good stuff.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Like, we'll probably come out and be like, all right, we'll give everyone like 4 weeks or something, and then we'll remove it from the UI so we can make that more simple. And then obviously we can just do a write-up and be like, if you need to unstake, like, you can go to this, like, here's how you go to Etherscan, connect your address, and unstake.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on geyser removal or peg-based rewards or the Badger boost? I'm going to talk about Badger boost a little bit just because I put some time and effort into it and I'm excited about it. And then we can touch on all the other stuff, see if it strikes up any code. So Badger boost is like a focus to bring more utility to Badger. And it's mainly geared towards boosting rewards for those that are staking their Badger. And when I say boosting rewards, it's really focused on the rewards that are going to non-native sets. If you're just staking Badger, like, everyone's going to get the same return for staking, like, on their Badger and their dig and then in the native asset. So like, there's whether or not if two of us are just staking Badger and nothing else in the platform, like, there's no reason you or me should be getting any higher yield than the other one. Where this matters, though, is for the non-native sets, so the Bitcoin focused sets mostly. So what happens is when we are looking at all the staking, all the users staking, which I'm still going to use the term staking, I guess, but it'll be basically what we're calculating is what we're going to call your Badger balance, which is going to be the sum of all your Badger, and I think we're going to include dig in it as well. And maybe that's a good question for the community. So we're going to figure out that we're going to come up with one number that's your Badger balance, and we can say, okay, it's going to be if you're using this as collateral or LP positions or your LP position as collateral, anywhere that you have Badger and dig that is whitelisted, that is earning rewards, that will also be become your numerator for your Badger balance. We then compare that Badger balance numerator to the total value of all of your non-native sets, so all of your Bitcoin sets, and we come up with your stake ratio. So that'll be Badger balance over dollar value of Badger balance, or Badger value of Badger balance, however you want to anchor it, over the value of the all of your Bitcoin staking. And then that ratio then drives, there's up to a 3x multiplier available for the amount of assets that you're staking in non-native sets. That basically it will multiply that. So it basically means that you can get up to 1.5x, 50% more rewards than if you're on the top stake ratio relative to your amount of staked assets, you will get 50% more rewards than as someone not staking any Badger. So what we hope is that incentivizes people to stake and use their Badger and dig even more, so that they can get better yield on their BTC. So this is another reason why keeping emissions going is also important, because the more emissions that we have, the stronger that effect is. So yeah, Whipper, you asked about Badger boost LP position in WBTC dig. Yeah, exactly, totally. And I think that's definitely something we want to do, and this is something that'll be completely community driven as well. Like, we'll be open with it and we say, hey, here's I've already started a spreadsheet, and it'll eventually probably kind of a beast. But what we can have is, here's the asset. So in your example, the WBTC dig LP position, that is a token, right? So that's the asset. And then we would have location. So, okay, WBTC dig, just in your address is default. It's a whitelisted, token that's accepted there, but maybe it becomes available as collateral on unit or something. So then we would have to then add that location to the list as well. But then next to all of those, we can have multipliers for, as we're saying, okay, the value of that, how does that go into your Badger boost? So, like I said, this will be a bit that'll have to come through for how we're managing all of this. But do we want to have that be 1-to-1 dollar value compared with your Badger staking? Right. So maybe we want that to be half value because half of it's Bitcoin, or maybe we want it to be full value because it's an LP position. That's up to the community to decide. So we'll have to just kind of frame that and put it out there. But that'll go in a spreadsheet that I hope, we'll make available that everyone can see here's what the whitelist is available. And then that'll calculate your Badger, the total Badger balance, and then it'll drive your boost. And then Lav Mork just asked, this was a great transition, so I was just getting to it. And the thing that I'm really excited is that, yes, we're going to build a front end so that you can see where you are in the rank for your stake ratio and your Badger boost, to kind of gamify it a little bit, so that someone can come in and say, okay, wow, I'm getting, maybe I'm getting even rewards, but if I stake this much more Badger, or I stake this much more dig, or I buy this, then I'll be able to get even more. So and I think this will be a great thing for moderate sized users of the platform as well, because if you think about it, if you have one or two, maybe you have two, yeah, it's Bitcoin keeps going up. I still have anchored in my mind to $10,000. Let's say you have half a Bitcoin, you've got $30,000 staked in there. You can get $30,000 worth of Badger on Uniswap without, moving the market. And you can have a 1-to-1 stake ratio, and you can, hopefully that would be high. But if you have $10 million of Bitcoin, in there, it's hard. It's not as easy to get $10 million worth of Badger. So what that means is that it should allow for the little guys to kind of retain, if they want, it's easier for them to get a higher yield relative to whales. But it's not a dramatically higher yield, because the yield, and this is in the BIP. We'll probably put some post out as we're kind of getting closer to it as well. But like that, how far down it drops from the 3 multiplier down to 0, it's driven by the total amount, your percentage of like total amount of Bitcoin or whatever staked. So the little guys, it doesn't drop it down too much, but like if you're above all the whales, like you're doing pretty good. And then once the whales hit, then it starts dropping a little faster. So very excited about that one. Cool. We have a few minutes left. I can touch on does anyone have any other questions about rewards and mission stuff? If not, I'll scroll back up to the top, and I think there are a couple rewards and mission stuff that was hit real quick.
I've got another question. Just wondering if the Badger boost also applies to alternate chains aside from ETH.
Well, currently we're not emitting any rewards on those chains. So there's 2 things. Do those staking positions count towards a Badger boost? Eventually, I would like them to. It's just going to come down to technical feasibility and how easy it is to include, whether it's in the first iteration or a follow-up or things like that. I would say anywhere you're staking Badger or Dig, it should be eligible to be added to that. But I don't think that not having the other chain options available should hold us back from doing the initial launch. Secondarily, we are not currently planning on doing emissions as we are right now. So on other chains, and actually we don't have non-native. Well, actually, no, we do have some non-native sets on the other chains, but we're not emitting any rewards to them. So like, we're not emitting any rewards to the BNB BBTC pair on Binance Smart Chain. We're not giving that any rewards, so there's nothing to boost. If we do give emissions or rewards to those types of vaults down the line, we'll just have to figure out how that works. And I assume it would kind of fall under the same umbrella. Cool. So I'll scroll back over to the top. Rex, you said you asked about making a BBTC a priority. It definitely is. It's pretty close to release. It's definitely in the next couple weeks time frame. There is definitely a decent bit of complexity with it, and we're working closely with the DeFi dollar team to get it out. I would say it's after this first cohort of Binance Smart Chain. It's definitely in the list of things that are top priority. The top priority as far as things that we're just like pedal to the metal getting things out are going to be the Binance Smart Chain, and then I think the Matic releases. But I think BBTC is hopefully something in the next. I would hope in the next 2 weeks. It's live, but we're still testing. We're in testing on it, so anything can pop up. But it's definitely in that cohort of things that are a high priority right now. Yeah, and I agree. If we want to be like the default native, interest-bearing Bitcoin, that we should make it as easy as possible for users. And I think it's also something that I would like to see as one of the assets that we push to have available on other chains as well. So even making that approach of saying, hey, now you're on Binance Smart Chain, you're on Matic, you're on Avalanche, you're on Phantom, you want interest-bearing Bitcoin, you get BBTC. So it's not, like I said, it's not launched right now, but like if we're continuing relationships with those places, that's definitely something me personally I'd like to see us push for, to kind of pair it with. Now we have interest-bearing Badger, we have interest-bearing Dig, and then we also have interest-bearing BTC on those chains for people to use. And then I think, the guest asked about the pool together pool. I don't know exactly where the vote went on that. I haven't checked. I think there's two things. There's one, us incentivizing a pool, which I guess is fun. As far as putting Badger into it, I do think the idea of having a Bitcoin native pool that is maybe using BPTC or something like that, I think that's more fun and interesting and compelling, but I think it takes probably more work. So that's my personal opinion. I think the community voted to approve some allocation of Badger for the next couple of weeks to do just an incentivized pool that we fund. I don't think, in my opinion, it's not it's I like pool together. I think it's cool. I have like perpetually pulled some tickets there. And I think it'd be fun to do stuff with them. But yeah, I think being the place that receives, making Bitcoin denominated tickets, and us being where that yield comes from, would be very cool. Cool. I think that's all the questions in there. And oh no, why does it say 58? Sorry, I was sorry. We actually have a decent a little bit more time. I think Will just started. I was looking at the timer. I was like, it doesn't feel like it's been 58 minutes, but I think Will is just getting in here, making sure it's working right.
Yeah, that is weird, eh? I wasn't even here that early, but yeah, we've got a few more minutes for sure.
Yeah, so I had it like expanded. Cool. Yeah. Anyone have any other questions on emissions or really anything else?
Any updates on when the NFTs might be out?
For meme?
Yeah, the NFTs, the Badger jerseys, things like that.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff happening with NFTs. I think the Badger jerseys. So first off, meme. That's something that I'm kind of running. Trying to get a Medium post out on that today. And then there will be a BIP to get approval for the funds to use in the honeypot for the new meme honeypot V2. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And then I think our goal is to do that next week. So confirming with the meme team, just making sure that's all good to go. So that'll be 3 new NFTs in the ecosystem. The jersey is, I think, ready to go. We're working on some token gating, some gating mechanisms to make it so that only certain addresses can purchase. So that'll be based on your Badger usage and staking and yada yada yada. That I think is, I don't know if it'll be next week, but maybe the week after. That will be a smaller. There won't be that many. I guess it's similar with there'll be another 200 because there's going to be 260 total NFTs. So 200 for the most common, 50 for the rare, and then 10 for the legendary for meme. And then there'll be another 200 and some for the jerseys. And then we are very impressed with the level of artwork done for like the 0xB1 competition. And we're very actively thinking about how to do more more Badger native art and NFT generation. So that could possibly mean like our own NFT minting contract and setting up some community stuff. So if you are in the community and you would like to be involved with helping run some kind of art strategy and NFT things, totally would be open to chat with you a little bit on kind of what we've discussed internally so far, and then what might make sense to have some fun way for the community to participate, not just creating NFTs, but voting on things which ones we want to launch, and things like that. Rob asked, what is the long-term view as far as interest on BTCs and integrations with other projects to keep interest up? So like, where will we get yield for the Bitcoin, I think is the question. Yeah. So Rob, I mean, that's a good question. And right now, like, it's part of what we're doing with the cross-chain thing and internally is it's not just about the cross-chain, it's about having more vaults and more options, but having more vaults and options that make sense. So right now, a lot of the emissions right now, the yield for Bitcoin coming right now is through curve emissions. And for, I think, a little while, it's going to be kind of emission chasing, right? So we've looked at doing a keeper DAO strategy, because I think they're going to be, they're going to be emitting Rook for a while longer. But if there's any, and we want to make it so we can launch these things faster, that's just something we're working on internally. And part of this, this initial set of work with the cross-chain focus is, okay, how fast can we actually launch, new vaults and new UIs? And I think once we kind of get this done, hopefully we're going to look internally even for more layer one options. Is okay, well, great, there's a new project over here, it's emitting some token, it's going to go on for a year or whatever. How do we go launch a vault over there and let people participate in it? So that's one option. The other place you can get yield is in LPs. So, the other thing is there is yield being generated for Bitcoin on Curve through the LP fees for people trading on Curve. Now, they're not super high, but I think as those assets and other assets can become more useful and be used for different things like collateral and stuff like that. So I guess take a step back. There's two angles that we look at it. Is A, like we're down to chase yield everywhere. We're not going to rely on Badger juicing yield in perpetuity. Hopefully we can continue emissions in some capacity for a long time, so we can continue to reward new users that come with some Badgers, so they have some stake in the platform, even if they're just showing up with Bitcoin day one. That's still useful, it's beneficial. So that's one way. But we're not going to juice 30% yield with Badger in perpetuity. It's just not sustainable. So I think the things are, A, we need to be nimble, and that's probably most important now, because new projects are popping up that have emissions going on that we could take advantage of. So let's go launch some vaults, be safe about it. And we're looking into kind of like also how we can have, this urine vault's going to be the first one where there's going to be some gating on, restricting who has access to it, how much can be deposited to it, and that'll all eventually be removed over time. But we'll be kind of using that as a template going forward to how do we allow access to these new vaults. And the urine vault itself can run up to 10 strategies at a time to go source yield. So emitting things is one play. Looking for new protocols that provide high yield for things like LP positions is the other way. And then the other thing is just how can we continue to make these interest-bearing assets that we're creating more useful? So like IBBTC, if we can make that a useful thing at different protocols or across different chains, then you don't necessarily need to have as high of APY because you can do other stuff with it. All right, let me catch up with here. Sexy Time Tiger. Let's talk about stability to dig. Yeah, so my take on this, and I was in the chat last week bringing about it, I do think that the new vaults that are launching across different chains are going to help dig immensely, because right now what we're looking at is we're going to have the same or very similar amount of rewards coming from those protocols on other chains to the different LP pairs that we're going to be launching there. They're not going to be distinguishing between the two, but Badger has 5 or 6x the market cap of Dig. So the yield, if all of the Dig and Badger are evenly distributed across all the vaults, will be much higher for Dig on those vaults than they are currently. Than the Badger yields will be at baseline, just because there aren't the assets to go. Where all the yield is kind of denominated back to dollars, so it's like there's just baseline, not the same amount of assets to deposit in those vaults. So I think that'll probably drive some demand. I think people, what's the threshold for yield on a vault? to get people to buy and stake dig. So I'm hoping that is helpful in at least stabilizing us for a while. And then we have the dig stabilization set coming up, like I said, in the next couple of weeks, which should be helpful. And then peg-based rewards I don't think it's going to make it a huge immediate impact, but I think it'll be a nice smoothing mechanism to make sure that dig, when it's below peg, is going into the hands of people that want to stake dig, not people that are looking to sell dig. So those are the things that I think make the most sense. Rex asks, as for BBTC, are there any thoughts of using LP BTC as collateral on MakerDAO, then mint DAI and sell it back to as BBTC? Well, the problem is what's backing BBTC is not actual regular Bitcoin. It's the vault tokens of the Curve BTC vaults. So the assets that are actually in the vault that could then go be used for something else are actually Badger assets, B Ren BTC, B Curve Ren BTC, B Curve SBTC, and those aren't really available to be used as collateral anywhere. But we are actively looking at collateral based strategies. I think there's just a lot of opportunity there. But meaning that, like, okay, you take an asset, deposit as collateral, you take out, you either mint, DAI, or take out the loan or whatever, and then use that to go farm elsewhere to create the yield. But then you come run up into having to manage collateral ratios and things like that, which is it's not impossible. It's just hard. You said mint DAI to generate yield to compound back as a BBTC. Oh, so if we could get BBTC added as collateral at Maker. If we get BBTC added as collateral at Maker, then mint DAI, then sure. Yeah. I think I think there should be some, we're actively looking at Maker for putting in some proposals pretty soon, I think, for at least for Badger, maybe B Badger. But yeah, Rex, did I answer your question as far as, like, you're asking about using BBTC as collateral at Maker to mint DAI and then farm with that DAI, take the yield, buy BBTC, and then have that basically be managed by a vault? Cool. Yeah, I mean, I would love to, but there are a lot of steps along the way. We have to get BBTC launched, then we have to get it accepted as collateral at Maker, which part of that might be us having to make sure we can seed enough liquidity on the probably try to do the open access curve where you compare it with the SBTC token, because the main thing that Maker cares about for the risk is its ability to liquidate. So the token itself has to be liquid, because they don't have to rely on liquidators to know how to, like, unroll BBTC all the way back to WBTC. They have to be able to sell it directly. So not impossible, would be great. And I think, it's something we would probably want to push for, but I think it would just be, down the line. We need to launch it first, and then Maker takes forever to review and, not forever. They're very careful with their evaluation of the risk of assets, because anything can bring systemic risk to DAI. How big is the Badger team now? Are most people working full time? It's a good question. I mean, I think the cohort for the full-time contributors, or the mix of full-time and part-time, last was 11 people. And all, if not maybe just for a couple, I think are now, people have left their jobs. People left their normal jobs, for sure. Numerous people left their normal jobs. And, I think right around the time that it was ratified, and then we kind of had a start date kick in, people kind of put in their notices, and then they're kind of becoming full-time available. People are kind of just, working two jobs for a while there, which you can do for a month or two, but it doesn't get too sustainable. So there's 11 there. There is some of the Cedar team, the founding team, a couple folks there, and then we have we are partnering with Deorg, it's like a DAO for developers, and we're getting, I don't know if it's full time, but close to it. If not, contribution from folks at Deorg, probably another 4 or 5-ish bodies there. So we're getting close to 20. I would say that if you were to combine a couple part-timers and then the full-timers, we're getting there, and we're growing too. We'll have more. Yes, again, yeah. If you roll, there was a BIP a little while ago that had the compensation structure. So everyone, basically the way that we're structuring it for people that are on quote unquote salaries, we're just basically doing like it's a year contract. And this is just for the first cohort. And we're working on kind of like the onboarding process now for how we can get more people in. So how are people getting paid, period? You can get grants, and then you can have kind of like recurring grants, which are called like the ongoing contributor. And those are just purely in Badger. And then the long-term core contributors, basically everyone we have like a baseline kind of salary number that we put everyone on based on like role, if you're in like ops or dev, and then like junior, senior, junior, mid, senior. There's like a dollar value associated with that. And then based on when you start, we used a different kind of peg price for Badger for like what price do we use at Badger to determine how much Badger you get. And the salaries are all 50-50, where we're getting paid 50% in USDC and then 50% in Badger. So yeah, that's the general pay structure. It's like coming out weekly now. It'll eventually be dripped out through the tree like everyone else. So yeah, no problem. Saw SA asked, I may have missed it, but staking B Badger WETH on Sushi, do we receive B Badger bonus, or does B Badger have to be staked on Badger? So two things there. Currently, right now, so B Badger means you're already receiving Badger. But not as much Badger as you would get as if you were just staking it directly. But once we do the geyser removal, that will definitely be an asset and a location that counts as staking, and then you will not be missing out on anything. So technically right now, there's I don't know if it's like maybe 10%. I don't think it's a large amount that you may be missing out on, but once that's removed, then you'll be fine. No problem. Sweet. Cool. Well, we're pretty much here at the end. Any last questions before we sign off? Going once, going twice. Cool.
I think we're good, John.
Awesome. When will Badger flip BTC? Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the real question, right? It's the same. You have to flip the market cap. We'll see. Time will tell. I don't know. I think the Badger would just that would be the singularity, and it would just fold into itself, and then we'd all go home. So cool. Well, thanks everyone for hopping on. Look forward to doing this again. I think at minimum it'll be we'll stay on the every 2-week schedule, and we'll hopefully have some more people to join me going forward. But keep an eye out for the next vote for the topic, and talk to you all then.
Great stuff. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks. Later.